Like, if you see the most beautiful woman you've ever seen,
Mhm.
run.
Yeah. Which then is just
And
hilarious to me. Then when he does meet Fail, he's like, "Oh, I can't tell if she's pretty or not." But then
yeah,
eventually, like, convinces himself that she is, and he's like, "Should I run away from her?" But then he's
yeah.
like, "That nose, I can't quite tell if it's too big or not." It's hilarious to me. I think
Which, hey, that slightly too big nose saves her from being.
that's true. Probably, yeah,
Yeah,
it saves
he
that
doesn't run away.
relationship. All right, what is up, you guys? Diggerdan here, coming at you with another video. Today, I'm rejoined again with Richard, one of my good friends from 2toRamble.
Hello.
And we're in what, video 4, book 3 now, finally, for Wheel of Time recap or reread recap, however you want to say it.
Oh yeah, I'm so excited now. I finally get. I always love these sessions because I finally get to gush about my favorite series,
Hmm.
and I don't get that with Austin. I always have to defend my favorite thing, and it sucks.
Yeah, unless it's Red Rising, then you have to like act like you don't like it
That's the
just
thing.
to get a reaction.
That's the problem. Is that he has taken that stance
Yeah.
against me. He hates Wheel of Time,
Hmm.
and so I feel like I have to hate something of his. But
Hmm.
I don't hate anything he really likes, so I
Right.
just have to needle Red Rising, even though I really like Red Rising.
Yeah. I mean,
It's a shame.
I really hope Red God is really great and is what everyone wants. But there's a small part of me that I want that it sucks just so you can rag on it for Austin, and there's
That
always, yeah, you know.
Yeah, that is true. That I would hope that too, but also I'm very invested, and
Right.
I've only disliked one of the Red Rising books, like only one of them,
Hmm.
and the rest have been fantastic. Like especially Dark Age. Like I'm loving second era of Red Rising so
Hmm.
much.
Good to
But
hear.
we're
Anyway,
here to talk
sorry.
about the
I
better
know.
series,
I
Wheel of
know it's
Time.
my video. I'm already off on tangents about other different things. So yes, finally, reread book 3. To all you patiently waiting, I appreciate you guys for sticking around. Life's just been crazy, and now Richard has this crazy bet with Austin where he's got to read the whole Stormlight in 4 weeks, or else. Because what's the
I'm
bet?
going
Austin has to do what at Dragonsteel?
Austin's gonna be dressing up as Syl from Stormlight Archive, blue paint and all, in the dress, and he's going to be on the panel
That's
dressed as
awesome.
Syl.
That's awesome.
At least one of the panels. I think he can do it on one, and then he'll
Hmm.
change,
Hmm.
but he's at
And
least doing it on one.
And then off camera, you were just saying that your progress is pretty good, right? Like you're
I'm
kind of ahead of
on
schedule.
track. Well,
Yeah.
no, I'm a little behind,
Okay.
but I'm close. So I'm at the 3rd week mark, and
Hmm.
I started Rhythm of War today. So
There
I
you
need to
go.
finish that this weekend, and then I have to read a couple other books along after Rhythm of War. I then have 3 secret project books to read, and then I
Hmm.
have to read a book club book, called Children of Time. That's what we're doing for our book club.
Nice.
I
That's
got
exciting.
5 books to read in
Hmm.
a little over a week. One of
That's
them is a Stormlight book, so
that's
yeah.
crazy. Well, and then
Whew.
November hits, and then you'll come back and read book 4 together.
Yep, exactly. No,
So
I do intend to read, like, not reread, but reread book 4
right,
with you. That way it'll be super
the
fresh. It's
second
definitely one
reread.
of my favorites,
Hmm.
but I will say, to bring it back to
Hmm.
book 3, I think, has one of the more interesting plot structures of the entire Wheel of Time. It
Hmm.
has one of my favorite scenes that I've actually of the scenes I reread, like, if
Hmm.
I sometimes just go to my shelf and pull off a book to,
Hmm.
like, read the scene again.
I
I
bet I know what
reread
it
this
is.
scene
Is it a
frequently.
parent scene? Because I might actually.
It's not. It's a
Okay.
matte scene.
Okay, so then it's a different one because I actually have one from this book too, but it's a parent scene that I'm like,
Interesting.
it's such a great character scene too, or character chapter even.
Mhm.
But I guess before we get too far, because I know already so many tangents. If you are watching this, I hope that you've read the series because we will most likely talk about spoilers. The first couple times we said, "Oh, we're not going to talk but it's just so hard on a reread. Like there's just
It's
so much
book 3.
foreshadowing about what
It's a
goes on. So, dude,
you're
it
through
yeah,
you've clicked the video, you're in the 3rd book by now.
right.
Come on.
There's most likely going to be spoilers. So
Yeah.
I hate to exclude people, but I feel like it's going to be way more entertaining to actually be able to talk about everything. So,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, book 3. And like you said, the plot structure is completely different. In my mind, Robert Jordan basically said, let's take my main character and just flick him way at the end of the book and then just see what all the other side characters do in between there.
And the best part about it is you still technically follow Rand,
Hmm.
but you follow Rand by it's fun seeing Rand through all the other POVs and, like, seeing him in the background or, like, all the little catches of, "Oh, wait,
Right.
who's that red hair kid?" Like, "No, that can't be Rand," and it is
Hmm.
Rand. It's I
Yeah.
love seeing that stuff.
Yeah, because according to the Wheel of Time wiki I'm looking at right now, Rand
Mhm.
has a total of 2.4% of page time
Yeah.
when he's the main character of the series in a main entry book. It's not like New Spring where it's a prequel. It's like main entry and the main character's got 2% of the page time.
But the thing is, I love how much this book shows the influence of the Dragon Reborn.
Hmm.
And so it shows not only like a character burden, but the weight of his world. Like it's
Hmm.
one thing if you follow him and you see how his status as a Dragon Reborn affects him. That's one thing.
Right.
It's another thing of seeing just the destruction or chaos that follows in his wake. So you're
Hmm.
not following him, you see the aftermath of where he leaves and how all of his friends and foes, how they're all affected by him, and he's not even there.
Right.
That is the fun
Right.
world building aspect to see, and
Hmm.
it again goes to show like you can't escape it. Like
Right.
Rand's kind of the unescapable black hole that's dragging all these characters in.
Right. Yeah, that Tavira nature that we always hear so much about. It's like put on full display, bare bones.
Mhm.
Like this, you can't get any more Taviran than this. Um, so yeah,
Do you want to start off
go
with
for
our
it.
overall rating? What
That would
did you give
be a
this book?
great place to start. Well, if you've watched the first two of these, I've rated the first two books very highly. So there's only so much room we can go. But overall, Dragon Reborn for me was a 9.32 out of 10.
Very good score,
Very good
very good
score.
score.
Yeah. What about you,
Again, you
Richard?
make me look like the Wheel of Time hater,
Yeah.
but in October of let's see, let me get
Was it
my exact
23?
date here, October 10th, 2023,
Almost a full
I
year.
rated this book a 7.3 out of 10.
That hurts.
Couldn't I know. Converting it to today, I would say I think the book is just great. I think it's great
I-
because of
Is that a
certain factors.
is that a 4.5 on your new scale, or
That
is
would
that a
just be a
4?
4.
Okay,
4 out of 5.
gotcha.
And it's a little bumped up there because it has a couple scenes that I go back to reread
Hmm.
over again. And so there's some emotional pull there that I just kind of plus it up. So
Yeah,
I'll
that's
give
fair.
the criticisms and such, but I like the structure of Rand being taken out of the story
Hmm.
just for this book. And I love the turnaround of Matt.
Yeah.
That's the biggest improvement from this entire book. The number
Hmm.
one thing to mention for me is I didn't like Matt in books 1 or 2.
Right.
And then, oh my god, I love Matt now in
Hmm.
one book. It took one scene for me to go, "Oh, I actually like Matt now. I
Yeah.
love him. He's maybe my favorite."
Yeah. And then by the end, he's definitely up there for me. I'd still have
Mhm,
to say by the end of this book, Perrin is still my front runner favorite.
mhm.
But then it's kind of like me between Rand and Matt. And again, Rand's barely in this book, like we keep saying, but it's kind of carried over from those first two books, obviously. So, um, yeah, those Taviran boys, man, like they got their hold on me too. So,
Also, I
yeah, go ahead.
this one has just the continuation of the so I think it
Oh
is
yeah.
done in every book, but I
Hmm.
just love the joke of every Taviran boy just going, "Man," Rand going, "Man, I wish Matt were here. He's just so good with women."
Hmm.
Parent going like, "Man, I wish Rand were here. He's so good with women." And
Yeah.
all of them are terrible.
Yeah. Well, and it's
I
even
love it.
funnier too because now that Fail is introduced, and then her relationship with Perrin is really rocky at start, and it's kind of blossoming over time. And like, I think you're right. Like Perrin says, I think he says that about Matt in this one, at least once,
Mhm.
specifically, which I just think is really funny, especially knowing where him and Fail end up by the end of the series. But yeah, you're right. That's easily my favorite ongoing joke between this entire series.
Yeah, we get a little bit more romance throughout this entire book, actually, across most of the characters. Probably,
hmm
I'm just thinking about the romance in the previous 2 books is not nearly as good. There's not a lot of
Yeah.
contention. It's more, "Oh, I fell in love at first sight." Like, that's kind of what we've been
Right.
getting the past 2 books.
Right.
Fail is definitely, I think, the first one we see,
hmm
oh, it's a budding romance and
Right.
intrigue and actually
hmm
development. And
Yeah.
also somewhat with Min as well, it's a little bit more complex,
Right.
which talking about, like, the first beginning of the book, I appreciated the explanation on
hmm
where Min goes, "Hey, look, I know I'm fated to be with the Dragon Reborn," and then
hmm
so parents like, "Hey, I can get you out of here, like, if you don't seem like you wanna be here,
Right.
I'll help you leave, like, why are you here with this whole craziness?" And she's
hmm
like, "Hey, I know I've been fated to it, but I also don't mind it. I want to be here. I want to be with Rand." And so
hmm
it's kind of making that active choice on fate. And she
Yeah.
doesn't mind what fate has chosen for her.
Right.
So I like how it gives her that agency back a little bit for this story.
Right. Especially knowing what happens in, I think it's book 4, like between Rand and Elaine, where it just like snap of figures and they're like in the hallways sneaking off together. It's like, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. To be fair, like if we're spoiling whole things, I guess, like
That's fair.
are are we spoiling everything or are we gonna
Let's
keep it to
do it.
book
I
3?
think like we keep hold it back, and it's like we keep
Fine.
butting talking around
Spoiler
things.
warning for
Everything.
total, but
Yeah, I'm sorry.
it's a side one. I'll try not to, like, go into it because the discussion's on book 3, but I
Yeah.
do like Min the most as Rand's 3,
hmm
romantic interests, and I don't even think it's close.
For a
Like,
long
you'd
time for
go
myself, it was
Min, Aviendha.
Avienda.
Well, Aviendha
Yeah.
has something of the I
It's like,
fiery
ooh,
passion, but
yeah,
not really love. You know, I always
that's
saw it
fair.
more as they lust after each other sometimes.
Yeah,
But
I
do
see
they
that.
love? Because
Later in the
I
series, I
think
definitely saw that. Mhm.
Aviendha loves Elaine and Egwene way more, I
True.
think, than she loves Rand.
That's true. I would say she's maybe more intrigued by Rand and about what he is and like being a wetlander, but he's still like the chosen one of I forget exactly how it's said, but the Kara
The
Khan whatever.
Caracan.
Kara
The
Khan.
Caracarn.
Kara I don't know.
The one who comes before the dawn.
Thank you, that one. So no, that's fair. But like on my first read through, like she was my favorite, and then I think as I matured through with the series, I would agree. I think Min by the end is probably my favorite romances, more romantical interest out of the three.
Yeah, definitely.
So
But we're going on to
anyway,
talk about it. Do you
yeah,
wanna talk about some of the emotional moments that this book has brought you? Because I know I
hmm
teased a little bit of I have a
hmm
particular scene that I keep rereading. Do you have any scenes that you reread? You're
yeah.
talking more
So
about Perrin.
yeah, so with Perrin, I forget exactly what chapter, but it or what city they're in even, but it's after her or Fail is with them for a while, and Rand, or excuse me, Perrin is again. He's got that dichotomy of the wolf and the blacksmith, and he's playing around with the wolf a little more, exploring that, and then I forget again what city they get to. But they the in their next or in there's a blacksmith across the street or next to or whatever, and he like just goes and visits the guy, and he just starts picks up a hammer, puts on an apron, and just starts helping the blacksmith out. And the guy's just like, okay. He's like, oh, you must be well trained, all these things. And then it just felt so good for him. Like he just like he's putting on a well fit pair of gloves type thing, you know? And I just think the
I do
way
remember
that
that.
Jordan
That
wrote
that's
it,
such a good one.
yeah, and I think the way Jordan wrote it too, like it just flow. It was just poetry, you know. It wasn't really, but
Mhm.
it read like poetry in my head. And yeah, and then he's like embarrassed. He looks up, like basically regains consciousness out of his flow state, if you will, and then he sees Fail standing there,
I th
like looking
I
at
think
him,
it's
and then
Fail.
Fail.
Is it?
I don't know. I'm
Hmm.
terrible with names.
Same here.
Fail.
I'm not one to talk.
In my whenever I read it, I always read it as fail, which ex
Okay.
which I don't know. So, but you're right,
It could be.
fail. That's the way they
Yeah.
say it in the audiobook, so I should say fail. But then when he looks up and she's there staring at him or looking at him, all intrigued, he's all embarrassed. He's like, "Oh, did I do something wrong?" He's like, but like that whole chapter for me just fits really well because it's a great characterization of Perrin, and again, why like he's made to be a blacksmith. Like he's got the build, he's got the experience, he's got the skills. Um, but it's just like that between the duty of what he has to do in his place in fate, if you will, or on the wheel of
He
time.
he struggles with decision and leadership or responsibility, but
hmm
he thrives when the problem is in front of him and he can tackle it. Like
hmm
it again, the flow state is the sense of like he doesn't have to think anymore, or
Right.
the very least, all thought is gone and it allows him to think. Like what he's doing is keeps his hands busy and it
hmm
allows him to think about other things in a more clear way because his all other thoughts and things are kind of pushed aside. There's nothing else to do other than hit his hammer, and he's just
hmm
in that flow state making.
hmm
I also love that scene as well,
hmm
and
and
it
then
also
too
it
in later
here's an
chapters. Yeah, go
additional
ahead.
thing
hmm
that I think is very important, and so a lot of times the characters when they're like the characters fall in love, and you go, "Why?"
hmm
Like, I understand a point of why is why was why did Elaine fall in love with Rand
hmm
or Avienda?
hmm
Like, they just I don't know, that
Because he's a
doesn't
chosen
especially
one.
when they meet, there's nothing attractive about them or special. It's just,
hmm
"And I'm in love."
Yeah.
The parent scene, I get it. I
hmm
would understand why Faio would fall in love. Just
hmm
it's attractive of how
Yeah.
competent he is and just the confidence that he has in his craft
hmm
and, his build, his confidence, the
hmm
amount of ability he has with a hammer. It's like,
hmm
yeah, seeing someone do something very competently with confidence is an
hmm
attractive quality in
Right.
anybody.
And it's
So I
funny
I
too,
thought
because
that was a great
yeah,
part.
because up to that point, she would always jokingly call him, "Oh, the blacksmith, blacksmith," and never. There's a whole scene too where he's like, "Just call me by my name. My name is Perrin. I'm not the blacksmith. I'm not sheep herder or whatever." And then after
Mhm.
that, I think that's when she starts calling him Perrin because again,
Yeah.
he earned that respect too. And then one
Mhm.
last little thing about that too is part of the reason I think that's such a great character moment is that even later when he goes to the wolf dream and he doesn't have the axe on his hip anymore, now it's the hammer. Because now again,
Mhm.
it's that comedy between the hammer, the wolf dream, and being a blacksmith. And then again, not to talk too far in the future in the series, but in the future too, then he's got the hit the I'm one of each hip, the hammer and the axe, and then every time
Yeah.
he like acknowledges that hammer, like I always go back to this scene in my head where it's like that's such a great scene. Like he is
Mhm.
blacksmith, like that's his calling, but really history really needs Perrin in this leadership role doing this thing. So anyway.
Yeah, it also is a great when you put Perrin in a leadership position, he thrives in
hmm
just the problem in front of him,
hmm
solve it. And
Right.
he will stop enough and there's just a bull bullheaded, just storm through it, methodical
hmm
way of he goes through things. He's not sly, but he's not dumb. He's
Right.
competent, but he's thorough.
hmm
I think
And I
it's
and I think that's
it
probably why Perrin's one of my probably my favorite character in the entire series. Probably just because I can relate to him and understand him the most.
mhm.
You know.
You definitely
So
get, I think, more time in his head than a
yeah.
lot of other characters.
hmm
Like,
Well, at
you
least
talk
early on.
about,
I think a couple books later on. I'm terrible with knowing the order and the names and whatever, but I think that later on, kind of like this book where Rand is definitely on the back burner. I think there's other books where it's like Perrin's on the back burner, and then it's like focuses
mhm.
on your girl Nynaeve, and I'm like, I don't want Nynaeve, I want Perrin. But that's kind of what Jordan's juggling with however like what it's over 200 named characters, like
Yeah, no,
however many POV characters I
I
forget,
I think
but
it's more too. Yeah,
yeah.
named characters is like Yeah, it's
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, but
hundreds, but
yeah, go ahead.
still.
Yeah.
But no, for me, the emotional scene that I go back and reread frequently
Mhm.
would be Matt's duel with Gawa
Gone?
Galad and Gawan. Gawan?
Okay. Sure.
Gawan? Eh, I say
Yeah.
things wrong too.
Yeah. It's all
Anyway,
good.
the duel.
The duel.
I
Yeah.
love that scene. It's where
Mhm.
I finally one, I got intrigue into Matt, so, like, "Ooh, Matt's a little
Mhm.
bit mysterious now. Something's going on. What's with this old tongue thing? The
Mhm.
weird memories?" I'm pretty sure he wasn't that good with a quarterstaff before he got sick, like,
Mhm.
yeah, no, he could have gone up against some of these other soldiers in the past and, like, so something happened to him.
Right.
And also, it was just so great to see those 2 get their, ass handed to them a little bit.
Yeah.
Just kind of stuck up rich boy princes and just,
Right.
like, served a slice of
Mhm.
humble pie with a quarterstaff.
Especially just
Ooh,
knowing especially knowing the pain that Gon puts us through by the end of the series too,
yeah.
where it's just like that little moment of like, "Yeah, put him in the dirt, man." So,
Yeah, no, I'm very happy with that scene, but
mhm.
it also is just so well written. I love how it's described as a fight scene, which
Mhm.
is strange. Is Robert Jordan the best action writer? No, I wouldn't say so, but I remember his fight scenes more than a lot of other better writers,
Mhm.
and I think it's a lot of it comes down to the style. His
Yeah.
style of making it more like poetry and a dance and getting in the character's head of what they're thinking at the time
Mhm.
makes it far more enjoyable than it ought to be.
Mhm.
I don't know if you've felt kinda similar with these fight
Yeah, no, I'd
scenes.
agree. I remember reading the series the first time and like him describing, oh, this pose is the crane cuts through water and then the leaves or the wind through the leaves. I'm just like, you're right, it is very poetic and it like really doesn't describe, oh, Rand up slashed with the sword or Matt did a over the hand two-handed thing with the like that's not really how it's described. It's not very detailed in that way, but it kind of lets your imagination wander and kind of fill in the blanks with, oh, the wind cuts through the leaves, where it's like you can kind of think, okay, maybe it is a side or whatever. Um, but yeah, I think
But
you're right, very
Matt
poetic.
doesn't Matt doesn't even
Yeah,
have any of that. It's more
it's true. It's true.
brutal, tactical of the thing is, the sword and again, that scene kinda describes the difference of the sword users versus, like, the quarterstaff
Hmm.
of in the Wheel of Time. The sword is this elegant weapon, and even Galad's like going, "Come on, like, I could beat you with a quarterstaff. You should learn the sword."
Hmm.
The sword has all these fancy forms and, the
Yeah.
eel that slices water,
Right.
the bear that breaks the tree, and
Yeah. Yeah.
Matt's like, "I hit him in the head real hard."
Right.
Like, my stick is longer than his
Right.
sword, and so when he came and charged
Right.
at me, I smacked him in the head with
Yeah. He's like, "I had to hit him as hard as I could because if I didn't and he didn't stay down, then I'm gonna fall because I'm really weak right now." It's like, yeah,
yeah, and just
like just yeah.
being able to, like it was just so simple and basic, but him explain just, like, his battle tactics of trying to fight both of them,
Mhm.
and the realist like, it does actually demonstrate the abilities of, like, leverage and weight and
Mhm.
distance matter a lot in any kind of fight, and that's
Mhm.
why a stick can beat a sword because
Right.
longer reach, often heavy. Like if you get a good thick quarterstaff, often
Mhm.
heavier than a sword. So you smack the blade, and their blade's going to go flying. They can't
Right.
actually block that. So
Mhm.
great description, great fight. Made me
Mhm.
actually like the character. Of course, Matt, he bets on the duels like I need some money. So I'm gonna
Right.
bet on myself. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, and then
every
too, like
all that
that
stuff.
and with after him betting himself too, and like him starting to feel that luck too,
Mhm.
because I don't think he really had that in the first couple books.
No.
Um, but now he's like, where again, he's kind of described as a gambler, rapscallion, but now it's like you can actually see he's literally gambling with his last two pennies he's putting together. And if he didn't have that, then he wouldn't be able to gamble more to get the funds to leave Tarvalin. And yeah,
And this is the book where we start to see I don't know if it did come up beforehand, But I
Mhm.
think this is definitely where it's explicitly stated where Matt knows, like, "Okay, something's odd.
Mhm.
I can hear the dice rattling in my head, and I know
Yeah.
when something's gon is lucky for me, and I know when
Mhm.
something's not lucky."
Yeah.
Somehow he know and now it's his actual ability,
Right. Yeah, because by
which
the end of the
is
book, when
great.
he's, like, searching for the girls, and then he's just like, him and Tom are going through each and every single inn, like, just methodically, like, just down the road, and it's not working, and then him and it's, like, very, very late, almost dawn in a storm, and then Tom's like, we gotta go back, man. Like, we're both falling asleep standing up. And then Matt's like, just one more. And then he just like basically chooses the very next one or whatever. And it just happens to
He
be the
it
one
I
that leads him
I
to the
believe he
answer.
does one at random. He's like, "I'm just
Right.
going to point at"
Right.
that's it.
Yeah. And then of course that's the one that gets him the information that he needs. Um so
I
yeah,
feel
they're
like,
just
the pattern, like, the wheel gives Matt enough because he's
mhm.
the most rambunctious out of all of them that he wants to pull away. So
Mhm.
with Perrin, like, you can convince him to fight for the light, and you can
Yeah.
convince him of do with put him with duty, and he will actually do the right thing.
Mhm.
Rand is burdened, he will eventually try to accomplish his goals. Matt
Mhm.
keeps trying to run away, so
Yeah.
the pattern and the wheel have to have such a closer hold
Mhm.
on him. Like,
Yeah.
they have a tighter grip, and I
They
think
basically
that
have to keep
is
making
also
things
his luck.
fun. They basically have to keep making things fun for Matt to keep coming back or to keep going.
But
Because
also
even
prove to him,
Mhm.
like, through several examples of, "You can't leave. You
Yeah,
are stuck here."
yeah.
It happens several times later of him trying to leave, get out of Rand's influence, and just
Mhm.
constantly dragged back in, and he's constantly aware of it.
Mhm.
And I feel like his powers is basically because the pattern, the wheel, whatever it is, has such a
Mhm.
firm grip on him that
Yeah.
that's his power of luck.
Yeah, and I think too it kinda starts as, like, him having to keep coming back or, like, not leave too far is because it's kinda like that conscious, so like, "Oh, they're gonna need me," or, "Oh, I gotta go save the girls." And then after that, he's like, "No, I can't anymore, like, I just gotta leave." Then eventually it's literally just, "I feel a tugging in this direction that I must go that that place." So, yeah, you're right. I guess, one last scene that I wanna highlight as far as, like, high emotional is I forget what chapter it is, but when Egwene is being raised to the accepted, and going in the whatever
The 3
Angriel
arches.
or whatever,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think it's the first one when it's showing like a pat. I don't know, whatever one where it shows like her having a family with Rand and like having a daughter. I think her name's Joya or something like that. That one really pulled at me, especially just having a daughter very recently myself, and
Mhm.
then like Rand is going crazy because that's his fate as the Dragon Reborn and as a user of the male side of the magic, whatever.
Saidin.
Sidene, thank you. And then she gets the gate opens and she's like, okay, I gotta go do this, and then getting ripped out of it, and then she's like, that was real. That was so real. Like I had a kid. I loved Rand. I was married to him. She's like, I left my baby, and for me, I'm just like, oh my god, that is, I could not do that.
Yeah.
I could not do that. So that one really tugged at me, just because of my life circumstances, very, very recently, you know. So
Mhm.
just want to
Also,
highlight that one.
I also love that scene more because it shows it's a great way to show Egwene's strength, but also her care for
Hmm.
Rand in a way where sometimes Egwene can come off as very hard to the boys of the
Hmm.
Emmons Fielders of kinda like, "Man, can you not? Like, they're your friends. Why are you so mean to them sometimes?"
Right.
In a way, like and she does it to Matt too, and
Hmm.
later in this book. But you see when it comes down to what she had in the last one, between her duty to become an Aes Sedai and rescue Rand from being killed.
Hmm.
It was hard, it was brutal on her,
Right.
but she did choose duty and her
Hmm.
duty as an Aes Sedai, and how much that hurt her, which I think was important character scenes for her of
Hmm.
made me it endeared me to her and also cemented how important her mission is.
Right.
She can't be completely distracted by her friends and, the boys from Emmons Field. She has her own mission to go on.
Mhm. Mhm.
Even though,
And that
Rand is the Dragon Reborn. So it's not
right.
just, your hometown crush anymore. He's
Mhm.
something greater.
Yeah. So I guess we keep dancing around it. We keep talking about high emotional scenes, but we never actually gave our scores. So just
Yeah.
quickly, my score was a 9.2, which I think is slightly higher than the last book. But what was your emotional impact score?
I gave this one an 8 out of 10.
Okay,
Main
solid. That's
There's
above your
so many
average.
great scenes for me that I
Yeah.
loved, and I was so emotional, and I had to keep rereading them. For me, I loved, Matt. So there's
Hmm.
another Matt scene for me that speaks to his character that carries forward. From
Hmm.
here on, I think this is what defines Matt is he's told like, "Hey, you're too late. The girls are captured in the Stone of Tyr, this
Hmm.
invincible fortress that everyone knows. Like only the Dragon Reborn can take down the Stone of Tyr, or it
Hmm.
won't even fall. And whatever it is, it's like it's an
Right.
impossible fortress, and they've been
Right.
taken by the Black Aja.
Hmm.
Oh my god, Uh, Matt! So simply, it's not
Hmm.
even a question. It's not a
Yeah.
oh my god, how hard. I'm gonna go break him out.
Right.
I I guess I'm breaking into the Stone of Tyr now.
Right.
'Cause my friends are in there. What do you
Yeah.
want me to do? Of course I'm going to of course I'm gonna
Hmm.
accomplish the impossible feat so I can save my friends.
Hmm.
And there's other things that cause him to go like, "Oh, no, I don't wanna do that." When it comes to his friends, he's willing to do anything, and it's not even a challenge to him, it's not a question, it's not
Hmm.
something he has to fight over. He just will.
Right.
And you love him for it, of just
Hmm.
him running on the rooftops and going, "Is that Matt? Oh, is that
Right.
Rand also breaking into the Stone
Right.
of Tyr?
Yeah.
No, couldn't be."
It
And
couldn't
then
be.
going, "Hey, there's Aiel also climbing the walls of the stone. Man, it's a busy night up here on
Yeah.
the roof.
Yeah. And
Okay."
he's actually like, "Well, hopefully they don't set the alarm off before I get in."
Yeah.
Yeah, that is
Oh,
funny. And
I
it's kinda
loved all that.
and kinda like it's almost like a juxtaposition to Perrin, where Perrin's, like, not necessarily slow, but, like, he's a methodical thinker and, like, likes to think things out, where Matt's just, like, makes up his mind, "I gotta go save the girls from the Stone of Tyr," and he doesn't maybe it's partly because Jordan doesn't wanna reveal what he's gonna do, like, with the fireworks or anything like that, but as far as I can see, from the outside in, it seems like Matt's just figuring it out as he goes. He's just like,
Yeah.
"This is what I'm going to do. Don't care how we're going to do it, but here we go."
He's an improv. He's an
Yeah,
improv guy. He's
yeah,
willing to, but he doesn't have to think about his moral decisions. We're both
hmm,
Perrin and Rand constantly worry
hmm,
about what they should do and
hmm,
that their actions have consequences for other people, and
right,
they're constantly worried about who they're going to hurt with their
hmm,
decisions.
right,
Not a concern for Matt ever.
yeah,
It's just, oh, my friends are in trouble. Do that. I don't
hmm,
care. I don't care if you're in my way.
right,
Nothing could stop me from saving my friends.
hmm,
And that's his whole MO. And it's why
yeah,
he's like not super concerned with the end of the world, basically.
right,
It seems like the only way the pattern can actually get him to play along is put his friends in danger, because then he'll
hmm,
actually do something about it.
right,
But it makes him he's the guy who says he's not a hero and yet
hmm.
frequently is always there to save his friends.
I feel like those are the guys that tend to make the best heroes.
Oh yeah, you
Is
can't
the ones that
say
just
you're
don't.
a hero. Yeah,
Right.
it defeats the purpose.
Right. Um, So I guess are there any like big emotional scenes left that you feel like you want to put on the spotlight here for a minute?
A spotlight. I mean, there's a bunch of little scenes with all the girls, of course.
Mhm.
Of with Not so much with Elaine, but with Nynaeve and Egwene.
Mhm.
Nynaeve, uh, basically kind of having to be humbled herself with Elaine, and you starting to see the friction with them. And
Mhm.
this is something that a lot of people I know find frustrating about Nynaeve, of
Mhm.
how much that she bullies her way through people, and she's not willing to take advice. And when other
Mhm.
people have better expertise, she just disregards them, and she doesn't know how to give up authority very well. And I
Right.
think this was a great example of both that flaw, but also she does have great skill where she
Mhm.
knows how to pick out the woman to go to, like
Mhm.
the healer woman. So her time as
Right.
a wisdom comes in handy.
Yeah.
She is a very maternal figure of when both Egwene and Elaine were traumatized by the three gates. She's
Mhm.
the one to comfort them and support them.
Right.
So she does take when she is in a leadership position
Mhm.
and it's right, she does it really well.
Yeah.
But she doesn't know how to give that up
Right.
at all,
Mhm.
even when it's right for her to do so. So I love those little scenes with her. Of course,
Mhm.
them being tortured by the Black Aja, pretty
Yeah.
heart-wrenching, and
Yeah, it was tough.
then lastly, Ran Matt saving them, and
Mhm.
then them just going like, "Screw you, Matt. We would
I
have
know.
broken ourselves out." And
That made me
they
so mad.
him just going, "What are you talking about? You're a
Right.
walking cage. I broke into the stone of tear to
Mhm.
save you. Not even a thank you."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they just kind of beat him up and just
Right.
go, "Screw you, Matt."
Yeah.
And
Especially
yeah,
since the last time that they saw him was them bullying their way into convincing him to go to Camlin to drop off that letter to Morghese too.
yeah,
Where it's like,
and
we just bullied you last time we saw you. Now we're gonna be ungrateful and bully you some more.
and here's the flaw on both of their sides. So when they first go to Matt and they don't even bully him to go to Camelin. They try and trick him.
That's
When
fair.
ultimately
Yeah.
what they don't get about Matt, and it's just a matter of misunderstanding.
Hmm.
Matt acts like a rapscallion that won't do what you ask him,
Hmm.
and he kind of flakes off. He doesn't want to be a part of things, so they think he's unreliable, and they don't look at him highly. They think he's, you know, a scamp.
Right.
And so they feel like they have to trick him. And
Hmm.
in general, that's how they feel about most men. They don't feel like they can trust men with the truth. They
Right.
always have to manipulate men to get what they want.
Hmm.
When ultimately, they could have just asked him and he would have done it.
Right.
Like all you have to do is ask him nicely. It's like, "Hey Matt, can you
Hmm.
please go to Camelin to deliver this
Yeah.
letter? It's very important to me."
Hmm.
He would have done it. And he's like, "Hey,
Yeah.
look, also I want to leave too, so this is perfect."
Right.
But also, Matt doesn't understand that the women of the Emmonsfield is all these Emmonsfield 3 or I don't know.
Hmm.
I guess not all Elaine's not it, but they wield magic power and they're incredibly powerful beings.
Right.
And so treating them like complete damsels and when he
Hmm.
goes in going like, "I'm here to rescue you girls and
Hmm.
you guys couldn't do anything with like let's get out of
Right.
here. Like you guys
Right.
are in danger and them
Yeah.
like you guys are and putting down their mission because they do try and explain like we got things we have to do. Like thank
Right.
you like all right, you got us out, but
Yeah, but
we have to
you're only
capture him.
accepted. You're not quite Aes Sedai yet. You're
Exactly.
only
You're
you're only
not
accepted.
like you guys are being ridiculous. Let's get out of here. Let's get
Yeah.
you guys are in way over your head
Yeah.
and really dismissing them
Mhm.
pisses him off. And
Right.
because he looks down on them.
Mhm.
He doesn't he just thinks that they're a bunch of silly girls that need to be rescued.
That's fair.
And they think he's just a bumbling idiot of a man that can't be trusted.
Right.
And that's where their conflict kind of they're both wrong.
But
And so that's
also
where a lot of conflict comes
but
from.
also they're both partially right because by the end of the book, they are three damsels that do need to get rescued from the Sonneteer.
That is also true. Like,
And then but
yes.
also Matt's way of like figuring out where they're actually at while he's in tier, jumping around from inn to inn, like he's also a bumbling idiot. He's
Yeah.
just going by the seat of his pants. So you're right. They're both wrong, but they're also both right.
It it comes to a head in so many different ways that often they both don't understand each other and
Hmm.
I think a lot of it is they each don't respect in one another. They
Hmm.
think of the other as someone to be used, tricked, or that ultimately just can't be trusted or respected.
Yeah. Or maybe I
And
would
that
even go
comes
that.
from both men and women in this entire series.
Yeah.
And
And I guess at
Nynaeve
least the
comes across
relationship.
as worse because she
Yeah.
doesn't respect other women. And so where the
Hmm.
all the other girls respect the other Aes Sedai, respect women, but they
Hmm.
disrespect men. And the same thing with men to the same degree.
Yeah.
Nynaeve comes across as frustrating because it seems she doesn't respect any man, way
Right.
worse than everyone else.
Mhm.
And also go like, "Oh, stupid Aes Sedai, you can't trust them, they're all evil, terrible."
Right.
So she only trusts herself.
Right. And I think for I guess everybody in the book who because I like we talked about kind of an underlying theme is men and women like are separate but equal and like what it really is best when they work together but they don't trust each other. I think a lot of this comes down to people just assuming other people's intentions.
Yeah.
Like Nynaeve is a perfect example of she doesn't trust men as explained, but she also doesn't trust Aes Sedai because she expects them all to just try to use other people, try to use like Moraine, for example, just use the Emin Fielders or use Rand to proclaim himself the Dragon Reborn and save the world. Where it's like that's when she's Mother Hen again because she's assuming the intentions. Now in Moraine's case,
She's
Nynaeve's 100
right.
percent accurate, but but
But
but still,
also, what are your options? And so
right? So,
yeah, no, it comes across so frequently, and which again, we come back a little bit to the Fael and parent stuff of
hmm
why the romance there is better is
hmm
because in that scene that you mentioned before, Fael respects Perrin. At the
hmm
very least, is going to, oh, you're actually very competent at what
right,
you do. Like you're not a bumbling idiot. Like you have great skill. People look up to you. You're
hmm
respectable. Like I respect you. At
yeah,
at the very least, for blacksmithing, you're
right,
a very impressive man for that.
hmm
Acknowledge that. So that respect has to go both ways. And he also respects how good of a huntress she is, and like she's
hmm
very talented. He respects her.
hmm
He doesn't look down on her. And
right,
he's when she needs to be rescued, it's like it actually is. He's not just assuming that, oh,
right,
you're in over your head. No, she's literally collapsed. She's
right,
literally stuck in the realm
yeah,
of dreams. Like
right,
he doesn't assume she's in danger just because it's dangerous or
right,
yeah, he doesn't assume incompetency on
hmm
her front,
yeah. He
which is
doesn't.
different from Matt and the girls.
Yeah, because he like slightly panics because he can tell something's wrong, but he doesn't go like full wolf panic until Moraine explains, yeah, she's like, there's nothing I can do. There's more important things I gotta go do. And Perrin's
Yeah.
like, fuck that. I gotta go save her. yeah.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. The reason why I like Fael and Perrin is because it starts with a little bit more respect. And
hmm
now Fael could be frustrated because she says one
hmm
thing and then believes the other. So she constantly needles Perrin,
Right.
acting like she doesn't respect him
hmm
when she really does respect him.
hmm
But it's weird. Like it's
Right. And then I don't know if it's really explained too much in this book, but at least in the next couple, where it's like, oh, it's just the culture I was grown up in or raised in,
yeah,
like just being a Chaldean, like yeah, we're just like
that's
that.
just
We're
how it
typical.
is. That's pretty typical. Yeah.
And then on the other side, you got Perrin, who's like the most mild mannered, like in most invasive like human you could ask for, and then she's constantly trying to make him angry just to get a reaction when she finally does blow up. Anyway, that's future books, but
Future books, future time.
yeah. So I
Well,
guess
we've been
again,
talking a lot about these characters.
mhm.
What did you give the character score?
So characters, I actually had same as emotional impact as a 9.2. And again, I think it's
Yeah.
higher than a couple previous, and it's just because
Mhm.
we saw more of Perrin, who, like I said, is my favorite, and we really see Matt really kind of blossom into his own, where a lot of people, like myself and you included, really kind of fall in love with him, and like we see the
Mhm.
true Matt. We don't see this crazed dagger carrying child.
Yes.
yeah. So,
Yeah,
but
no,
yeah, 9.2.
I give it a 7.5.
Okay.
Definitely a huge step up from book 2 with
hmm
Matt being by far the biggest improvement.
hmm
I do think we get quite a lot of stuff with Perrin. I loved all that stuff with him.
hmm
I think we also get just the right amount of Rand of where he is at in his
hmm
mental state. Is I
Yeah.
think almost a whole book. So Rand's arc this book is coming to terms with his role as Dragon Reborn. Like
hmm
first book is discovery. Second book is denial, like he denies it.
Right.
He now knows he is the Dragon Reborn in book
Mhm.
3. But that comes with he tries to just it's acceptance. He's trying to go through the stage of acceptance and going, "Oh, I'm gonna kill it. Like, I just have to do it quickly. I have to push everyone away. If I can
Mhm.
just sprint to the finish line,
Right.
maybe no one else can get hurt. Only
Mhm.
I have to get hurt if I go after this."
Mhm.
And by the end, he realizes he can't. He needs the other people. He can't
Right.
just sprint to the finish line by himself.
Mhm.
I think that would not be nearly as good of a book if we got to see in his head all the time. But the flashes that we get of
Mhm.
how much the burden is weighing on him all by himself
Mhm.
and how alone and isolated he is. And now in the dreams, he cl- also inferred if every time he dreams,
Mhm.
the Dark One keeps coming as different loved ones, torturing him as why he can't tell real from reality.
Right.
And
Mhm.
yeah, it's twisting him.
I think this is
I
probably
like that.
yeah, I agree. I think kind of this entire book is an example of this is an amazing show don't tell for that
Hmm.
example like you're talking about because you're right like when Egwene finally is in the world of dreams and sees Rand then you see Rand like madly rambling like you're not real and like throw a spider at her like actually could kill her doesn't know that and yeah
But clearly, the Dark One, Lanfear,
right
whatever, has come as
right
Egwene to
mhm
torture him.
mhm
And we get probably one of the more important scenes of the merchants come to him in the
yeah
night where he's not a dream.
mhm
Merchants come and he senses something's wrong
mhm
and he slaughters them all.
immediately yeah
And one of them was at least a gray man. Like there
mhm
were some like he was right,
yeah
but also he's not 100% sure
right.
all of them
Yeah, first time I read
were.
that scene, I'm like, Rand just murdered innocents. What is going on?
Yeah, like they were probably all dark
Most
friends.
likely, yeah. But in
More than
the
likely,
context I had as a first
probably.
time reader, I'm just like, Rand is crazy. But yeah, as a
But he's
reread,
snapping.
yeah.
And that it's so also I think he does kill the woman in that scene as well, right?
Yes. I think she's the first one that dies.
Yeah,
Because I think he
and
recognizes that she can probably use Sidar or yeah,
mhm,
Sidar. Um we don't actually know if that's confirmed or not, but just based off how he's feeling,
yeah, the people that use Sidin can sense with
right?
like the goosebumps of when Sidar is being used.
Yeah. So I think she's the first one that goes down actually, but I could be wrong.
Mhm.
It's like I said, it's
But
been a
yeah,
couple weeks since I read it, but
it's great to see it's great to see Rand from that position where in book 2 you get to see more of his transition of becoming more of a man
hmm
and go from boy to man of like Land teaching him being put out on his own and having to basically being thrown into a sense of a position of leadership. And I loved his growth in book 2. He
hmm
grew so much in
hmm
what that one book. And in this one he's not growing a lot. It's just coming to terms with who he is
right.
and accepting that he needs his friends around him, but also a lot of people are going to die
hmm
and accepting that his role as Dragon Reborn is going to get people killed.
And I think too,
Accepting that that's hard.
yeah, and I think too, having experienced all that, or Rand having experienced all that, and then him at the end of the book finally taking the sword that is not a sword and officially being like, okay, there's no doubt in anybody's mind that he's the Dragon Reborn now. And just as it being a Taviran and as the wheel weaving as it is and the pattern weaving as it is, pulling all these people towards him, and whether he knows that or not, and having that yield come, I just like it just sets up for such an amazing payoff in book 4, and I think that's why book 4 is so good in my opinion, and why it's a lot of
Mhm.
favorites for people. Again, this isn't a book 4 talk, but it just makes me super excited to get into that one with you too.
Yeah, no, so perfect perfect amount of Rand for this book
hmm
and for his particular arc this time. Nynaeve we talked about a little bit
hmm
of we get more examples of how good of a leader she can be and how great of a motherly figure she really is and
hmm
very comforting, and she can be very warm to
hmm
those people and has a lot of empathy, but is also she feels that if she's not in control, that people don't respect her.
Hmm.
Respect comes from power and authority, and she doesn't understand that you can be respected even if you're not in charge.
Yeah.
That, the leader can look down, like, to the servant and still respect the servant, like, because they have something valuable to say. Like, there's
Hmm.
you don't she seems to have this ability where she knew when she wasn't in charge and when she was a young wisdom, that she had to fight for the respect given, and anyone beneath her didn't respect her, and
Hmm.
so she had to not respect them in turn. And now, so she treats other people the exact same way because she thinks that's how it is. It's just power and respect is equal to power,
Hmm.
and she's wrong.
Right.
So I enjoy her trying to learn that lesson over and over again.
Yeah. Me too.
It,
Yeah. But
what
with
the only character for me that didn't do it as well was Elaine, I think, and I thought she was fine, but not
yeah, because we don't
great.
really see. I'm trying again. I'm sorry. I'm trying to look at like we don't actually see an Elaine POV, so we never really get in her head. We
No.
only see what she says to the other girls, um, and I think we don't really know the real Elaine until book 4 when we start getting POVs from her. Um,
Mhm.
but I agree.
We
But I think
we
that's
get a
part of
little
the
bit
reason.
of
Go ahead.
yeah, we get a little bit of her being a negotiator.
That's true.
Yeah, she's the intermediary.
Hmm.
She's clearly been trained with politics
Hmm.
and knowing how to she can learn she knows humility, and she
Hmm.
can also just feign uh ignorance to
That's
get what
true.
she wants.
And I think her having specific knowledge about like tier or like the way politics
Mhm.
work in certain countries or whatever it was, I forget the actual example, like kind of humbled Nynaeve a little bit. So it was almost it was Nynaeve POV, but it was almost a Nynaeve character moment. But you're right, it was like also a small character moment for Elaine showing I Nynaeve even acknowledges, okay, yeah, you have some training that I don't. Like, cool.
Yeah.
Let me use that now.
Yeah. And
Immediately
let
turns
me tell
around.
you what to do. Let
Yeah,
me tell you how to do it. It's like,
exactly.
ah.
I think the last character that kind of highlights in this book is probably Tom Maryland.
Mhm.
Especially after end of book 2 or end of book 1. We don't know if he's alive or dead. When he pops up again in book 2 and now he's hobbling because he's got that bum leg. Like, ah, it sucks, but Tom's back, awesome. But then towards the end of book 2, when this new girl, this his new love of his life that gets murdered, and then we in book 3 when he gets reintroduced, he's in a drunken stupor. Like Tom has just had it rough, man. And then it takes this
Yeah.
rapscallion Matt to kind of pull him out of it and like snap him back into reality. Um,
It, again, another great example of Matt being a great friend,
mhm,
of him looking at, like, knowing Tom's in a bad place and doing his best to help him and
mhm,
drag him, quite literally drag him out of his stupor and
mhm,
forcing him to participate and get involved again.
mhm,
And even though Tom is being difficult, he knows that Tom's going through something hard. So in many ways, like, Matt does have a lot of empathy for
mhm.
him and wants to help his friend.
Right.
So another great Matt moment too of how Matt's the best friend.
Mhm. And then it kind of too with that kind of makes an interesting relationship with him and Tom because, from my opinion, Matt almost sees Tom as like a mentor, but then
Mhm,
in this book, Matt almost kind of does the mentoring back, like you said, just kind of
mhm.
getting him
Matt has to take charge.
getting Tom back in like just a normal, regular headspace, or at least a safe headspace, I guess I should say. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, you're right. Just more great Matt character moments.
It's another thing of Matt is fully willing to take responsibility when his friends are on the line,
Hmm.
of to take it's not a because that is a odd thing to be put into, of your mentor and, like, at one point, the leader being, like, you having to take charge of your mentor.
Hmm.
It's an odd position to be in, but Matt takes it in stride
Hmm.
very easily to help him.
Yeah,
So
and then also again, kind of like we've already talked about with Matt. having to then save Tom because Tom's come down with this cough and he's not getting any better. And then he has to go find, I forget exactly what she's called, but the wise one of Tyr. And then
Mhm.
that's what moves the plot along because, of course, that's the way the pattern was woven.
Yep.
Of course. Um,
Robert Jordan
yeah.
making plot turning plot armor and plot convenience into a world building trick.
It just works so well.
Yeah.
and then, but on the flip side, if anywhere else to do it, it'd be either A,
Yeah.
copycat, or B, it just wouldn't work. Wouldn't work as well.
It's all about setup and payoff,
Yeah.
and all of the all of the pattern movement is just well set up in this entire series, so
Mhm.
it's believable when it happens.
Mhm.
And I think also Min's powers, especially in the beginning of the book,
Yeah.
gives some consequences
Mhm.
and some guardrails on that particular power of the pattern.
True.
Of To me, it makes it feel more real
Yeah.
of, yeah, the pattern can move people around and do all these things.
Mhm.
But also when Min says like, "You're gonna die," like, "I foresaw your death."
Yeah.
Yeah, it happens
Yeah.
pretty quickly too. It's
Mhm.
not It makes sure I don't know, it makes it feel more real and
Right.
not just the author doing whatever they want. It's
Right. Well, especially too
deliberate.
when she says that, "Oh, this I forget the
It's
Tinker."
the Tinker woman.
Yeah. But it's like this Tinker is gonna die, and then Perrin goes through his whole thing trying to save her, and it still happens. But then later, and then she's like talking about, and then Perrin's like, "Oh, I don't want you to tell me what you see, but also, what do you see?" And then she's like, "Oh yeah,
Mhm.
Matt." Well, actually, no. I'm confusing this with Egwene being a dreamer and her seeing dreams, because my example is going to be like Matt having an eye on a scale that doesn't get paid off until like way down the line. Like,
Oh, yeah.
so I'm confusing those two because that's also
Sure.
similar to Min. Yeah, go ahead.
Min tells Perrin about the hawk and the raven,
That's right. Yep.
on his shoulders, and also to run away from a beautiful
Like
woman.
if
If you see the
hmm
most beautiful woman you've ever seen,
hmm
run!
yeah. Which then is just
And
hilarious to me. Then when he does meet Fail, he's like, "Oh, I can't tell if she's pretty or not." But then
yeah,
eventually, like, convinces himself that she is, and he's like, "Should I run away from her?" But then he's
yeah.
like, "That nose, I can't quite tell if it's too big or not." It's hilarious to me. I think
Which, hey, that slightly too big nose saves her from being
that's true. Probably, yeah,
yeah,
it saves
he
that
doesn't run away.
relationship.
That's also another character moment I really enjoy of
hmm
Lanfear is this great manipulative, great beauty, kinda tricker of
hmm
all men, and, Rand falls for her tricks, Perrin also falls for her tricks because she comes to him as well.
hmm
Matt's the only one that just, like, immediately she shows up and he's like, "Nah, not
Yeah,
buying any of this. I'm
yeah,
gonna not do what you're too
right.
suspicious.
Well, and part of that too.
Leave, beautiful woman."
Yeah, and part of that too is because he suspects that she's an Aes Sedai, and he straight up asks her like, "Are you Aes Sedai?" And she like is in a rage. She's like, "Don't ever say that word around me." And
Oh, no,
then
and then he's like, "You're a dark friend, aren't you?"
yeah,
Like, that, just done, like, yeah, no one else he sees right through her
yeah,
the first instance, and I love how he doesn't need to be warned about her. He
hmm
already knows.
yeah. That's
The weird wisdom of Matt. Matt just somehow he has that luck gambler's wisdom. But no, it
yeah.
it works well for this book.
No, I agree. And I guess one last little thing about plot and with Min's abilities, and then we slowly see Egwene's dreamer abilities open up, and then we see these little snippets of all her little dreams. Just like the foreshadowing for things. Like as a first time reader, you're just like kind of glazing through it. At least I did. I'm just like, okay,
Mhm.
cool, random fantasy things. But then later it actually gets paid off, and then on a reread, it's like,
Yeah.
hey, this it's like a
Well
lot of really cool Easter eggs.
well, the
Um,
Min one that we were just talking about with Perrin
hmm
is, like, the Hawk and Raven.
hmm
We know now that or is am I saying it right? Is it a raven? It's a hawk and
It's a falcon.
Falcon. Hawk and
Falcon and Hawk.
Falcon.
Yeah, because
Yeah, 'cause
Fail
ravens are the dark
means
ones.
means falcon, and then the hawk I think is like
Is Barreling.
yeah, it's her like insignia or something like that, or her coat of arms. I forget.
But that doesn't get paid off for several books, like a
Hmm.
lot of books. I mean, I think you get
Like she doesn't even get introduced until the end of this book, and it's literally just her
the
delivering a
very
note.
tail end, and even in book
Yeah.
4, it's like it doesn't go anywhere in book 4. I
Well, and that's because,
believe
and partially that's
it's
because kind of
somewhat
the
in
whole
book
parent everything. It's kind of put back on the side burner because it's
yeah.
Rand's land again, or Rand's story again.
I don't think you
But
get
yeah,
much of Barreling until, like, somewhere in book, like, 8 or something?
I think it kind of starts in book like the end of book 4, maybe beginning of book 5, because I think it's in book 4 where Barry Lane is kind of all over Rand, and then Rand by the end of the
Yeah.
book is like, "Yeah,
Well,
sorry, thanks, but no
it's in the
thanks."
very beginning of the book of her trying to go after Rand,
Hmm.
and that not going well.
Yeah.
And then she's like, "Well, you sent me to go at like
Hmm.
to one of those, so you were sent. I was promised one of the Dragon Reborn's friends, so I'm going after
True.
one of them. I'm picking
Yeah.
one." And so then it's a little bit in the background, but I don't think
Yeah.
she's with them
That's true. Okay, I
until
guess.
much later on.
Yeah.
Of
No,
when,
you're right. I think I was thinking about different things. I would guess like when that budding starts, I guess is what I was thinking. But you're thinking when it's
yeah.
actually like in the thick of it. But you're right.
Yeah,
It's
we're
book
actually
7 or 8.
barrel lanes around
Yeah.
around Perrin trying to sway
Yeah.
him and flirting with him in that whole
Yeah.
love
Yeah.
triangle. It's not even a triangle, it's a love angle because Perrin has nothing. Like,
Yeah.
feel honestly, it's not even a love angle because Marilyn doesn't even love Perrin at all. She's just
No.
like,
It's
I'm marrying someone for political purposes and
right.
power.
It's kinda
That's
like
it.
her just creeping in their closet, just watching them in their
Yeah, it's
bedroom
going like,
type thing, like
uh
yeah.
he has power and influence, and
Right.
I want him.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
move aside, peasant girl.
yeah, yeah, so
But well, we're talking about plot. What did you give
mhm.
plot?
9.3. This is not the highest thing, but it's higher than the last 2.
Hmm.
So,
I gave
9.3.
this a 7.25.
Okay,
So in line, but a little worse than some of the other things.
sure. Yeah, not
The
terrible.
main thing is
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
think some of the stuff with the three girls can kind of sometimes drag a little bit,
Yeah,
along with yeah, it's mainly that those three were there's a couple scenes that I really enjoy of them, but I
mhm.
think it also stretches a bit. So,
Yeah,
like, them investigating in the tier, I
right.
feel like stretches a little long,
That's fair.
personally.
Yeah, part of the reason it's so high for me is just because of the kind of the structure of it, where again you take the main character and you sprinkle them in like 1 or 2 scenes, but then really it's just at the very end
Mhm.
and just kind of see what happens with everybody else. That was really interesting to me. That's a structure I don't feel like it's been explored really all that often. But then again, those big gut wrenching scenes with Egwene, like that really hit me. But then also kind of cemented my love for Perrin was
Mhm.
that actually blacksmithing scene. That kind of carried me through those those lows a little bit. Because I agree. Like again, we've kind of talked about this extensively in previous episodes, where it's like we don't really, you and I don't believe in the slog. It's just something goes on a little long. But if there
Yeah,
were like
it's
it's
like,
I would
"Oh, this whole
yeah.
plot point could have been done in 1 book rather than 2."
Yeah, but if I were to say if there were any sluggish anything, I would agree. It'd be like when we're following the 3 girls, whether they're in the White Tower, whether they're on their way to Tyr. I feel like that kind of goes on a little long. Um,
It's also the
but
nature
yeah.
of their perspective and story angle, and Robert Jordan tries to emphasize the difference between how men and women think and act,
Hmm.
and or at the very least, specifically in The Wheel of Time.
Hmm.
I think it's deliberate that Egwene, Nynaeve, and Elaine POVs, like, they're always together.
Hmm.
There's a sense of unity in their group that they're actually those friends are close together and work together, talk
Yeah.
to each other about the problems, and try to work out things together. almost never, except Nynaeve, and even then, Nynaeve tells everyone what to do and like, "Hey,
Hmm.
we're doing this as a group." But they all plan with each other,
Right.
and they ask each other's opinions and how they
Hmm.
feel about things. They're close.
Right.
Where Matt, Perrin, and Rand are
Hmm.
such close friends and yet are so isolated
Yeah.
and focused on their mission and feel like they have to take the burden all by themselves.
Right.
Almost all of them not Matt. Matt does have those thoughts, but he does isolate himself of like, get
Right.
me away from these things. But
Yeah.
so it's the difference between men and women of women tending
Yeah.
to come together and kind of work within a community and
Hmm.
men trying to do things on their own.
And maybe that's too why maybe sometimes when we're with the girls so long, it feels like it drags because we see the POV of the girls together. So it's like multiple
Yeah.
POVs in those scenes. Where when you cut to Rand or you cut to Matt or you cut to Perrin, they're in a completely different part of the world. So it's a completely
Mhm.
different scenario or event that's going on. So it kind of just automatically is more interesting just because it's kind of refreshed. Like, oh, what's going on in this spot? And then when you come back to the girls, it's like, all right, which POV is it now?
It's
So once
also
again,
about
I'm not
yeah.
ragging on them too much. It's just like I feel like maybe that's why it drags for some people. Is because we just spend more time
Mhm.
with them in general, just because there's more of them that are together.
I think a lot of it comes down to decision making. Of
Hmm.
give an example of when Lanfear tricks the girls into, you know, she disguises herself as one of the other novices
Hmm.
and tricks them to go down to the basement and find the other Black Aja sisters' remaining items, and
Hmm.
they all pretty quickly come to the conclusion of, okay, all of them have something from Tyr.
Hmm.
Clearly, they're going to Tyr, I guess, but
Hmm.
also that's real obvious. Like,
Yeah.
this is a trap.
Right.
Like, this is way too clean of a thing.
Hmm.
Like, this was planned, but also, what else are we gonna do? Like, we
Right.
get it's a trap.
Yeah.
We have nothing else to go on. Like,
Yeah.
we kind of have to go for it anyway. Spring it and hopefully, you know,
Hmm.
get one over on them.
Hmm.
But that whole decision on what to do takes up a bulk of the time. It's
That is true.
whenever they don't ever just do things. It's
Hmm.
discussion and the plot, the meaty character stuff is their discussion on what they're going to do and what the decision's going to be made.
Hmm.
And maybe I can understand for people going like, just go. You're already
Right.
going to the Sonatier. Why do we have to
Yeah.
have pages and pages of them
Right.
arguing about it? Like they're
And this
constantly
whole
arguing about what they're gonna
Yeah.
do.
And this whole time too, they're like trapped in the White Tower too. So it's like they're all in one location where at least
Mhm.
like Perrin, for example, like they know they're following Rand, don't necessarily know what's gonna happen after that, but at least they're moving. So it's like at least there's scene change.
Yeah.
or like scenery change. Um and like
Some
Matt, again,
yeah.
like going from tavern to tavern, meeting different people. So it's like he's kind of doing the same thing from going here to here, but at least interacting with different people, or oh, my luck's really hot right now, like, so I think
Mhm.
it's a little bit of that too.
Yeah, I maybe it's also I don't know, some of it's maybe the obvious option where Perrin
Hmm.
is being a little bit led around by Moraine, but
Yeah.
his so there's not really an obvious decision of what he should do
Yeah.
when it comes to like Fael or whether he should rescue the Aielman, or
Hmm.
there's some where his internal
Hmm.
struggle between the wolf and the blacksmith is a hard decision, and it's
Hmm.
ultimately difficult for him to come to the conclusion of what's he going to do. Same
Hmm.
thing with Matt as the kind of the adventurer. You're not really struggling with what is Matt to do. I don't know.
Right.
How is he going to solve this problem? Like
Right.
me as the reader, I don't know
Hmm.
what he's going to do, what he's going to choose.
Hmm.
With the girls, with Egwene, all that, it's a lot of their decisions seem obvious of what
Hmm.
they're going to have to do,
Right.
and yet it takes pages for them to agree to do it,
Hmm.
and that can be like grating. Now, eventually, like I enjoy the banter back and forth, but
Right.
I can understand why could feel like it's dragging.
Hmm. And then speaking of Perrin saving Gaul, the Ayuman, that was another scene. Like that whole sequence, probably that whole chapter, I really love too, because it's a
Mhm.
great character moment for Perrin, where it's like when they come into town and they see the kids throwing rocks at Gaul and like hit him in the face, he doesn't even flinch and he's bleeding. He's like, oh my god, why are the kids doing that? Like that's ruthless, like that's heartless. And then he goes and actually saves him, and then the White Cloaks come in, and it's just like more conflict between Perrin and the White Cloaks. That's another scene that I forgot about until you mentioned, but it's actually probably one of
Yeah.
my favorite chapters out of the book too. So
Yeah, it's also good. I love everything to do with Perrin and the White Cloaks.
yeah.
Of it's definitely one of the better setups for the
hmm
entire series of all the things he does to the White
hmm
Cloaks, but also just their the White Cloaks are so frustrating
hmm
as a group,
hmm
but on reflection, I understand them. Like, if
Yeah.
as the reader, we get this omniscient knowledge on what's going on with the world, so that when
Right.
they are doing these things, you're like, "Ah, my god, you guys are you guys are idiots."
Right.
But in context of, like, they don't kn what they actually know, to some degree, I get why they're going after Perrin. I
yeah.
get why they're going after these guys, like,
Yeah. Well,
I don't know, they
especially
make sense.
especially when like the debrief, the guy's like, I don't know what happened. This is what I think happened, but Perrin Arbaria or Arbaif on the Two
Or
Rivers, he's a dark friend. I don't know.
Ibarra, yeah, there we go.
Ibarra. Yeah.
And he has decent reason of, like, I saw his
Right.
eyes, like, turn yellow and he went
Yeah.
feral,
And
and the
he
wolves
killed the
followed
white
his
cloak.
commands. They
Yeah.
fought alongside him, like,
right.
I don't know, for
Yeah.
ignorant, like, ignorant soldier people,
Mhm.
like, that sounds like dark friend things.
Yeah. So it's like it's
So,
just yeah, so when that because I think that happened again in the prologue, right? Where the captain
yeah.
commander's being debriefed, where it's just
Mhm.
like, oh yeah, that's right, that did happen. And then later, yeah. So you're right. I think that's probably one of my favorite subplots throughout the whole series is Perrin and the White Cloaks. And then when it finally comes to head in the payoff, it's really really satisfying.
Perfect.
hmm
It also great payoff for a character I thought I would hate, but came to really respect, which we'll talk
Yes,
not important for this book,
right.
but I
Not until like
enjoy
book 13.
yeah, exactly, and even then, I disliked him, and then after thinking about it more going, I actually kind of respect
yeah,
him.
yeah,
I
because
respect him a lot.
the decisions he made to get into that position were just like, why would you choose them, man?
Yeah,
Like of all,
but
like between always be, I don't want to say anything. Always between right or wrong. Like, are they
yeah.
really the right option? so
But yeah, again, most of a big theme of the story is how information changes
yeah,
and shifts
hmm
for distance, time, and people, and
yeah,
how the truth is just constantly changing in people's minds, and like no one really knows what's actually going on,
hmm
except maybe sometimes Moraine. And if everyone would just listen to Moraine, things would work out. But no one ever
right.
listens to Moraine.
No,
Constantly having to drag these people by the back of
no.
their necks to
I
get
think
to
there's even
where
a
they're
scene
going.
in this book too where Perrin's like, I would listen to you, Moraine. Like I don't like I just need to know what's going on. And then she's like, I don't have the time to explain a lifetime of knowledge to you about what's going on, Perrin. Like, if you want to come along, let's go. But like we need to get going. He's like, all right, Moraine, I guess, whatever.
Oh, yeah,
so
no, the little moments of where Moraine deliberately, like, holds off Perrin, like, "Shush, shush, shush, shush,
hmm
don't tell them that we're looking for Rand." Like,
right.
"Don't say his name." Like, "Come on."
hmm
And then he just does it anyway, and Moraine's like,
yeah.
"I told you don't do that.
right.
Why would you do" And then Lan's going, "Do I have to kill him?" "Not this time. No,
yeah.
Perrin.
right.
Come on."
It's yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
that is pretty good.
yeah. Wanna get into dialogue and prose. We talked a
Absolutely.
little bit about it over
Mhm.
these parts
Yeah, over
here.
a little bit. For myself, this was the highest thing I actually rated out of the 5 categories at a 9.5.
Ooh,
I
is that a big part of it, the blacksmith scene?
yeah, that and then, mostly that. And then
Mm,
even I guess too when we're in the World of Dreams, or I guess both the Wolf Dream and World of Dreams with Egwene, and kind of like again, the first time when I read the books, I maybe didn't connect with it as well because it's like a lot of abstract, don't really know what's going on because it's dream world. But like the second time around, when I really kind of understand what's going on and seeing all these little things, and again, leaving very small things that you don't think matter, but actually it's a hint to things, big things that happen much later. I think is just really good. But if I had to say
There's
one
so
thing, I would
much
say yeah.
foreshadowing with I'm so surprised with
Hmm.
specifically the Egwene dream of
Hmm.
seeing Matt putting his eyes on the scale and
Yeah,
hanging,
yeah,
hanging by the neck, going,
and you're just like, that's weird.
"Oh, that's
Yeah,
those are some deep cut," like, one of those, like, okay, like, pretty quickly, like, "Oh, next book," like, "Oh, that's cool." Like,
yeah.
that pays off. The other one pays off, like, what, book 12?
I think it's book 12,
So,
which yeah,
that's a far reach, and you know that that's not, like, a thing he left that he didn't know what he was gonna do with,
right.
but then he, like, pulled it off later.
Hmm.
That was specific. Like,
Right.
he knew exactly what he was doing
Hmm.
that early on. I feel like so much of the Wheel of Time was planned by book 2 on
Hmm.
was pretty well planned out.
Yeah.
At
Well,
least a lot of the big stuff.
I think originally too, like, didn't he plan on it being a trilogy, and then it slowly he just kind of fell in love with the world, and he like wanted to explore more and more of it, or am I just making that up?
I don't know. I actually don't know about that. I know with book 1, he was forced to change it and, like, going, "Hey,
Yeah,
I need to make it so I don't know if it's gonna be picked up for a second book,
yeah, I remember
so
us
I
talking
need to
about
make it
that.
where
Yeah.
have an ending
Hmm.
that people can be satisfied with, but if it does well and I can get another book, I
Hmm.
can continue on." Which I think is
Yeah.
the biggest flaw from the first couple books,
Hmm.
and it even annoys me on a reread type deal, is for
Hmm.
3 books, the ending is Rand fights
Yeah.
Baalzamon and wins,
Right.
and then next book,
Yeah.
Baalzamon is back, we fighting him
Right.
for again?
Right. Yeah.
3rd time's the charm, like, at a certain point, I'm
Yeah.
like, "Please, for the love
Right.
of God, let's not have
Yeah.
Baalzamon fight Rand
Yeah.
again."
I remember that was one of Austin's big sticking points too, and it was hard for
It
him to get in the series because he's like, I already
Yeah.
read this 2 books ago. Like, why? He's like fighting Baalzamon at the end, and everyone comes together, even though they're all apart. Like, happens 3 times in a row, which is fair.
Oh, no, especially by the 3rd time.
Yeah.
Like, even me, I'm
Yeah.
going, "Mm,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah," like,
Yeah.
that's that's not great.
But I think,
That's you could do
yeah.
better.
But I think between the three, I think the Dragon Reborn is the most different. Again, because of the plot structure and
Mhm.
because of the character moments that are, I think, just outshine the character moments from the first 2 books as well. And just
Yeah.
because we have the world established, right? Book 1, 2 did a lot of that legwork already. Obviously, we're still learning more about like Tyr, for example. It's first time visiting Tyr. We're still learning about the Aiel, which is a big thing, obviously, in book 4 and kind of getting set up. So yeah.
We get a lot more of the tower politics with,
Hmm.
Tarvalon, but
Hmm.
yeah, no, the character work is so much better in this book, where I enjoyed a lot of the plot from book 2, and the
Hmm.
character that shined is Rand. Rand actually
Yeah.
did a lot of character development in 1 book,
Hmm.
carried that.
Yeah.
Matt, again, was a nothing burger for me.
Right.
Perrin in book 2 was also a little bit like, you get a bit of him. You get a bit
Yeah.
of him, like, experimenting with the Wolf Brother, but for the most part, he follows Rand, and that's about it. There's
Yeah.
nothing to him.
Hmm.
The girls do get like, Egwene gets the most development book 2. Like, book 2,
Yeah.
Egwene, oof,
Right.
some meaty character stuff, and you love her for it.
Hmm.
Book 3, everyone gets some time to shine and really
Yeah.
enjoyable. Especially characters like Min, who
Hmm.
intriguing, but I kind of feel like, oh, is it just another one, like another girl that fell in love by fate, like
Right.
love at first sight, and like, no, she's a little different, and it's
Hmm.
enjoyable to see that. So yeah, no, overall, I gave the dialogue prose a 6.5. By the way, we were just talking about it.
Bro, is that your lowest out of the 5?
It is my lowest, but it's still good. Like, it's above average for me. Like,
That's like what you rated Red
overall.
Rising, dude.
Writing wise, yeah.
No, no, I think overall, I can't remember. It's been a couple. I think it's been like over a year or two since I watched that
Oh, okay.
video. When you, but I think your overall score was like a six something, and you're like,
Yeah, it
it's
makes
still
sense.
good. And I
I
remember
liked
Austin
it.
just being livid. He's like, a six something. What do you mean?
Yeah, thing is, that's about right. I do
Yeah,
feel that, like, for the
yeah.
right overall, Robert Jordan's writing, like, there's some scenes for me that, like, really stand out,
hmm
but overall, I think it's just good. There's
Yeah.
other books where I think it's excellent writing,
hmm
but I just don't think this one particularly was it. I just was
That's fair.
sufficiently good across the board.
That's fair. Something I do really enjoy about Jordan's writing, and maybe again it doesn't highlight so much in this book is in some others, but when you're in someone's POV, what's described is what they see and what they experience. So if something,
Mhm.
and I know I explained this in the last one, but if something like the character misses, you as a reader also will not be privy to that until a POV change, which I just think is
Yes.
really intriguing. So and
He
I
does
know
a
that's
great job at
yeah.
it's not character voice,
hmm
but yeah, character view is
Yeah.
very important. Joe
Yeah.
Abercrombie also does that really well. It's the reason
Okay.
why I liked book 1 way
Mhm,
more than people like, everyone says I'm crazy for loving book 1 as much as I do.
mhm,
A lot of it is exactly that, of
mhm.
character view, of details that the character doesn't see or pick
Yeah,
up, but then you switch to a different POV and you go, "Oh, that's actually really important,"
yeah,
and you don't see it.
yeah, and obviously with Jordan, like, I haven't read any Abercrombie yet, so I don't know 100% of that, but, like, with Jordan, it's not to the point of, like, unreliable narrator, like in book
Mhm.
3 of, Red Rising, for example, where it's
Yeah.
like which is done really well, but
It
it's not to that level. Well,
it's
until the
done
last
well.
act.
It does feel a little bit like betrayal. The writer, like, lied to me, and it's like, I don't like this," but
That last like 50 pages is exactly what. Yes. But I
yeah.
didn't really, again, this, I don't want to go on a tangent, but I didn't even think about that until I watched someone's review saying, "Hey, I love the book until the end, and this is why." And I'm like, "You're right." Like in the moment, I just was so hyped. I'm like, "Yeah." But then after I thought about it, I'm like, "You're right. That is betrayal. Yeah, I that is
Then
betrayal of the author."
the nice thing about Robert Jordan is I've never gotten that feeling.
No.
Not once this whole series, because the best part about him is all the things that he sets up. There's
hmm
some stuff where it feels like it comes out of nowhere,
Yeah.
and you go, "What the hell? How did this like, when was
Right.
this? This just happened." And
Right.
it was set up 6 books ago with consistent
hmm
Easter eggs all the way through. It wasn't just,
Yeah.
"Oh, I dropped a little hint in book 2 and I pay it off in book 8." No,
hmm
consistent things. And so with the white cloaks in this book,
hmm
we get their first little inkling and a little touch of with the fireworks that
Yeah.
we got that in book 2 of
hmm
introduction of the firework people, and then we get
hmm
even further with Matt of being
hmm
given the fireworks and playing around with them, like,
hmm
where it's leading to. We get, the Telleremriad, all the things that are going to come, the prophecies that
Yeah.
well set up books and books in advance.
hmm
It never comes out of nowhere. That's
Right.
why I love that stuff. So,
Yeah.
it is a testament to his writing of being able to set these things up.
Mhm. And I think too, if you ever do feel betrayed as a reader, it's not Jordan doing something just be like, "Ha, I got you." It's like the character just making stupid decisions. Like, gone.
Mhm.
I'm looking at you, man. Like, but again, it's not out of character for him to make those decisions because
Yeah.
Jordan set it up properly. So it's
Yeah.
really just Jordan playing with your emotions in the best way possible, in my opinion.
I will say I think that is actually the biggest fault where maybe it makes sense with Gawan on how he
hmm
does, but it's like, it's lame. It's like,
I agree.
sure, I get it,
I
but
agree.
also this character's lame.
I
Why are
know.
we seeing him?
I know. Like,
If he is
why? Yeah.
he makes sense, but he's dumb and I don't like
I
it, so get
I
him
know.
away.
Right. Right.
And
But
the
hey,
thing that
the
doesn't make
wheel
sense
weaves as the
is
wheel weaves, Richard.
I know, oh god. Like Egwene, like, oh my god, Egwene, you could do so much better.
I know. And it's
Well,
like I get the attraction initially, but just then he
sure.
consistently like betrays her or goes
Disappointing.
against what she explicitly wishes him to do or not to do. And
Yeah.
then she still's like, "Oh God, I can't like come on." dude.
It's the worst.
Yeah.
It's the worst love story in Wheel of Time by far of
Yeah.
the guy sucks.
Yeah. Like, again, I don't wanna spoil anything crazy, but, like, in the last battle, I cheered. I'm not gonna lie.
A little bit of a spoiler, isn't it? Oh
You don't know
god.
who I cheered for.
Oh god.
No,
Yeah, no,
anyway.
so the writing was good. Writing's good for me. I
No,
just
it's
didn't think
fair.
it was, you know, I
Yeah, and I think too, maybe
before between talks,
go
but
ahead.
last time we talked and now,
Yeah.
I have a new favorite book of
Yes.
Lonesome Dove is now my new
Yes.
favorite book.
Mhm.
The writing and
Mhm.
specifically the dialogue and prose has knocked so many things out of the water, it feels hard for me to give outrageously high scores now. Like,
That's fair.
it's such a masterwork of dialogue. I'm going,
Mhm.
"Oh, everything pales in comparison." That's
Yeah.
rough.
That's fair. I feel similar after reading. I only read the first one, but reading Liza Locklemore, like Gentlemen
Mhm.
Bastards, like just the banter, for example, between
Oh,
Locke and
yeah.
like the other Gentlemen Bastards. It just feels so effortless, and it just feels so natural. Like
Mhm.
I had so many literal laugh out loud moments in that book when it's not even really a comedy; it's tragedy. But it's
Yeah.
yeah, so many yeah. Just another example of I have to agree with that.
Completely
But again,
agree. The dialogue there is that I will say maybe that's part of if I were to give Robert Jordan, like, a flaw or something that's it's not as good as other people,
mhm,
but he makes up for it in his writing is so his writing is best when he's doing descriptions, like,
yeah.
descriptions of the the world, the cultures. It's such a great visual, and it makes and then the prophecies come alive, and it
Mhm.
feels so fantastical. I love
Yeah.
all that aspect. The dialogue between characters can sometimes feel somewhat stilted, like, it doesn't flow
Yeah.
as well as other characters. Like, sometimes
That's fair.
characters say things that I'm, like, going, "Would someone really say that?" And
Yeah.
it
That's
happens
fair.
often enough that it feels like these are just the characters that live in this world, like, it's
Yeah.
not our world, but it does take me out of it a little bit. It's not as fluid as Gentlemen Bastards. Of the banter between those characters, a
Mhm.
lot of it is what's left out,
Right.
and Robert Jordan leaves everything in.
Yeah. That's true.
So
That's true. Because with leaving everything in, I think that's part of the reason maybe people are turned away to Jordan and maybe even just classic fantasy in general, just because
mhm,
it is a little slower and maybe over explained. Like something I know I explained to you in one of the last reviews we did was like my dad. I got him to read Wheel of Time, and I think overall he liked it. But I described he would literally skip some description scenes or just like lines of text until like the next line of dialogue. Cause he's just like, I don't care about what this person's wearing. I just want to know what this person's saying and doing. So I think
uh,
so I think some people might get bored by the way Jordan does it. But again, this
mhm,
was my personally this maybe I had some rose colored glasses going into this again. Just because I enjoyed the series so much the first time and it was my first like real big fantasy series that I really fell in love with and like really blew my mind of like this is a really fantastic world, this is awesome. So maybe that's why dialogue and prose is 9.5, but I'm sticking to it, sticking to my guns.
good. I appreciate I appreciate someone's willing to stick up
Yeah.
even against the wind, against everyone else.
Yeah,
I am
like
right.
like I'll admit there's people that do it better, like we just described, but then they're just higher than a 9.6. They can or 9.5. They can be 9.6 and higher. So I guess let's go on to the last thing, which I feel like Jordan probably does the best, and that's world building. Again, maybe for this
Yes.
book, I didn't give it higher than a 9.5. Like I said, I gave it 9.4, and I think that's just because he does it so much better, like in the next book on. Yeah.
Yeah, I give it the same thing. I give it a 7.25
Hmm.
because it's done really well,
Hmm.
but Jordan has a lot to grow. The outrageously high scores are gonna come around in next book, and then they're on. Like,
Mhm.
you're gonna that's a lot of them, but
Mhm.
yeah, no, for this one, you get some good stuff with basically Tyr is the new big city we get to see the different culture of.
Mhm.
Um, Other than that, we don't get too much. We get a little bit more with the Aiel, with Gaul and
Mhm.
Avienda, basically from,
Yeah.
Perrin and Egwene's point of views, but not too much about them. They're
Right.
just they're looking for the Karakarn,
Right.
little fun, a little weird. They're kind of violent people, and then they storm the Stone of Tyr. It's like,
Mhm.
okay, they're there, I guess,
Yeah.
but we don't get too much about them, so it's
Right.
mystery and all that to it. But I mean, what else do we get more world building in
I
this
guess a
book?
little bit like you kind of already explained a few minutes ago, like the fireworks thing. Like I know it was kind of
Mhm.
already talked about in book two, but obviously we explore it a little bit more specifically because Matt actually has them and is kind of playing around with them. I would say, I guess like the magic system a little bit,
Quite a
like
bit,
Matt's
actually.
Tavira nature. I'm thinking specifically like with his luck, like that basically being his magic ability.
Mhm.
But then yeah, like being in the White Tower and the girls actually like they're in class, they're learning more about Sidar. Um, yeah.
Also, I think the 3 big magic elements that we get to learn more about is, of course, the Wolf brother stuff. We get
Hmm.
a lot more with the connection with seeing how finally, I think in this book, we finally see the consequence of Perrin is right to be afraid of the wolf power.
Hmm.
Like, I know, like,
Yep.
some questions in the previous ones, you go, "Hey, he's has these wolf powers, like, why is he so
Right.
scared of it? Like, it
Hmm.
seems all good."
Yeah.
Like, where's the negative here?
So slight
However
technical difficulty, guys. Don't remember exactly where it ended off, but I know we were talking about world building. We were
yeah.
talking about Wolf Dream, I think was the most recent thing we said.
Yeah, we'll talk about the 3 magic elements that were
Hmm.
introduced in this book, or not introduced, but developed more.
Explored a little more, yeah.
Yeah, we got the Wolf Dream with Perrin, the Teleran Riyadh with Egwene, Nynaeve, and Elaine,
Hmm.
and then we had the third is Matt's luck and
That's
the
right. Yep. Yep.
pattern as like, and along with that is it's more mysterious than even the other stuff because it's
Hmm.
the luck and also the memories. Like he's clearly has memories of a past life, which is giving him some weird abilities in speech, so he could speak the old tongue, and
Hmm.
also he's a lot better with a quarterstaff than he
Right.
probably should be.
Right.
He's remembering something.
Hmm. Which is funny reliving this because I like later in the series when we know that he has memories that maybe aren't his own. I always think of the events that happened in book four. I forget that some of those were actually because of the holes left from the dagger from book one and two.
Yeah, and even then, I don't even think it's fully explained that where it comes
Hmm.
from the dagger. Like, I'm still confused now
Right.
on when exactly did the memories of a past life happen. Like,
I know.
where did the whole luck thing come from?
It's just
Like, I don't think it
explained
was the
as
dagger.
it's just
It's just the
explained as
pattern.
oh yeah his family has a long line being in Manetheren.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it seems so much more closely related to it's just the pattern.
Right.
It's the luck is the pattern moving him in a certain direction to get him to the end goal of the last battle.
Yeah.
Everything with his memories is the pattern and the wheel basically giving him memories of his past life in a more sane way than what Rand gets. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
So
fair.
I don't know. Matt just plays with the pattern, or the pattern plays with
Plays
him.
with Matt. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's his power.
I guess another maybe a fourth or maybe a like a third subplot whatever about magic system or world building was I can't remember if Balefire was introduced yet, but it's explored a little more in book three, especially with Moraine at the climax of the book using Balefire on I forget the Forsaken's name, but I think even in um I think Rand might use it even in one of I can't remember.
Not Rand.
Hmm.
So Moraine uses it in the beginning of the book when they're going after the hounds are coming after them. So she
That too,
uses
yeah.
it then, And then it's also mentioned that I believe Nynaeve uses it as well. Nynaeve or Egwene use Balefire. I'm trying to remember when they use it.
I can't remember. I remember it was like little snippets, and then later it's explained. Oh, it's like it unravels the pattern, and it's like something to be feared. But it's like we're just being introduced to it now in this book.
Mhm.
But yeah,
And
I
then they
can't
also
remember.
mention one of the tools
Hmm.
taken by the Black Aja is a wand that basically just produces balefire. Like it's probably one of
Yeah.
the most powerful
Hmm.
um tools of Sidar that
Hmm.
exist.
Hmm.
But
Yeah, and
oh
that,
no, I think it's
yeah,
Rand. Doesn't Rand use it
that's what
as
I
well?
was thinking. That yeah,
Yeah, but he doesn't
I
call it balefire or something.
no, but you can know because it leaves streaks in his eyes, or like the after
Yeah.
image, and that's how you know as a reader if you
Hmm.
from the context clues that it's Balefire. But again, I can't remember when, because I think he uses it against that group that comes up on his camp, doesn't he? Isn't
I
that the
think
time?
so.
I don't
Maybe.
remember.
I thought he
I
used
don't
just
know.
regular fire on that one.
I
Anyway,
don't know. Yeah, it doesn't matter. It tells you what we know.
can't remember balefire use. Got to do another reread.
Yeah, I got to do reread 3. Let's go.
But yeah, other than that, the world building is still done very well. Um, we get more of the magic and a little bit more of the culture from the stone, like from Tyr,
Hmm.
and then Tarvalon. Other than
Hmm.
that, I don't think we get too much else. Um, Unlike with, I think book 2 gave us a bit more with the Shan Shan culture, which is
Hmm.
drastically different. We get the
Right.
alternate histories with Arthur Hawkwing,
Hmm.
more of the past being revealed.
Yeah.
Uh, I think we even get more of the White Cloaks with book 2 than we do
Hmm.
with book 3. So a little bit more isolating, but still
Hmm.
very good at what it does.
Yeah.
What would you say is probably the best aspect of world building and maybe the thing you wanted to see more of?
That's a great point, or a great question. I would say probably Wolf Dream in slash. Um, you say it
Teleran
better.
Riyadh.
Thank you. Yes, you say it way better than I do. I can't even pronounce it. I can barely read it when it's in front of me, let alone say
I'm
it
honestly
off
impressed that
cuff.
I could pronounce some of these things. I'm terrible pronouncing everything
Yeah.
else, but I can do Wheel of Time.
Yeah, there you go. I would say that, but I know that does get explored later. But again, having it be properly introduced, saying this is what it is, and then it really being revealed that Egwene really is in fact a dreamer and have prophetic meanings her dreams do a lot of times.
Also
Just
seeing Perrin in the context
yes,
of she's not seeing Perrin in the same way she sees Matt, and she
right,
thinks she is. She thinks she's dreaming these things, and like,
yeah,
no, he's literally there.
yeah,
That is
yeah. And Perrin
he.
like acknowledge like they acknowledge each other, like is just hilarious to me. But then even I guess now that I think about it, like I know Rand because he's Dragon Reborn, he's very heavily Taviran, like he has wacky things going on. But the fact that like he also acknowledges her in his own dreams, like how does he get there? You know, is it more like him just dreaming so he's there and then Egwene meets him in his own dream? Or is he also sort of doing like the whole wolf dream thing, but not being a wolf brother, you know?
So I think specifically for that one, his dreams are just constantly invaded by the Dark One without Moraine shielding him. People are
That's
constantly
fair.
entering his dreams and manipulating him.
Hmm.
He can go into Teleran Riyadh. He does it, especially in book 3. He actually
Yeah,
travels through the dream world to chase
right,
after Baalzamon, but he
right.
more follows him. He doesn't
That's true.
go in there. It's more like he sees the opening. I'm gonna do
Yeah,
what he
that's
did
that's fair.
and
He's more
follow
like,
him.
you could do that.
Yeah, but Egwene, I believe, enters his dream, and it's at a point of like you like literally people. Egwene has kept coming up to me and several times stabs me, like kills me, or tries
Yeah,
to kill me in my own
yeah.
dream. And
That's true. Okay,
so I think she enters his dream in that state. But
okay.
then later on, he does enter Teleran Riyadh proper.
Yeah, because I guess like I didn't think about it all that hard. I'm just like I accepted it. I'm like, okay, that's something Rand can do. But then I sat down and thought about it. I'm like, yeah, but Perrin, his whole thing is going the Wolf Dream because he's a Wolf brother. Like I get Dragon Reborn, but yeah, that makes more sense.
A lot of it,
Having
I think, is like
having
it's that control
yeah,
where Rand doesn't have a lot of control in the dreams. Egwene has a bit more control.
That's fair.
Perrin, even at this early stage, has far more control in the dream world than Egwene does, and she's a
Hmm.
dreamer.
That's yeah, because he does have Hopper helping him along at least, where
Yeah, but
Egwene's
he's just
down in the.
just far more conscious and understands that it's like
That's fair.
he has this just wherewithal. He's kind of almost always there. He doesn't need a magic ring to get in there. He just is kind of always he's
True.
frequently there, and he's still more of himself
That's true. Until he's not.
until he's not. But
So
yeah, I
I
agree with you. I
yeah.
like that stuff. It's
Mhm,
definitely the more mystical magic system of the Wheel of Time, where
mhm,
Sidon and Sidar, the one
mhm.
power, are more hard magic system
Yeah.
stuff.
Which I still really enjoy that. We just don't see much of that in this one. Like for very like early in the series until Rand really starts using magic, it's really just very heavy Sidar, obviously, because the one tower the White Tower, all the Aes Sedai using it, all this stuff. And then when Rand starts using it, and then the other events that happen where more people use it, that gets explored more. But which I think is really cool because again, like you said, it's more hard magic where this is more soft magic, kind of more exploring the boundaries.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah,
There's so many magic systems in the Wheel of Time.
hmm
Everyone gets their own apparently,
yeah,
and then
and
they
like
also all meld. So
they do, yeah, because even like the Forsaken, they just have different abilities just because they're Forsaken, but it makes sense because we as the readers, or we as the readers from what the current millennia of people say, like, oh yeah, they had crazy abilities. We just accept it as is when it's
yeah,
really whatever the excuse is, you know?
yeah. I mean, they're pulling from the Dark One himself and like the
Right.
true power instead of the one power, which
Hmm.
gives them twisted but different abilities. And
Hmm.
yeah,
Which
so
calling it the
much.
true power had never made sense to me. It's like if it's from the dark one, how is it the true power?
Well, it's
When
what they call it.
that's fair. That's fair because I would think the true power would be the power from the creator,
Yeah,
but
it's the same way of
yeah,
they don't call themselves the Forsaken. They call
the
themselves
chosen. Yeah,
the Chosen.
yeah,
So they call it the true power. The
that's
same
fair.
vein. I don't
Okay.
even think the side of the light has a name for it because I don't even think they know about it really.
Yeah, I mean, towards the end, like Rand explores it a little bit, but again, at that point, it's still called the true power. But you're right; it's the Forsaken that are describing it, so it does make sense.
Mhm. But
So,
yeah, other than that, is there anything you wanted explored more in this book that you were kind of missing?
hmm. I mean, kind of just more of everything. But I know that. But when you got another 11 books to go, you know there's going to be something left out. I
Yeah.
think really, um, if I had to say one thing, it's probably just Aiel in general. Like I know book 4 is a big explosion of Aiel culture um, in everything that happens.
Mhm.
I would say that, but I partially because I know that's what we get next. what about what about you?
I would say I yield, but also just I like the history aspect of
Hmm.
the Wheel of Time, so I loved so much learning more about Arthur Hawkwing
Hmm.
in book 2 and seeing the history of some of these cultures. So that's what maybe I would have wanted more of
Hmm.
while we were in the while we were in Tier.
That's true.
Why do they exist the way they are? With Arthur Harkwing, and we get the Shan, but we also
Hmm.
get the history of Arthur Hawkwing, and
Hmm.
also see what would have happened if he won. Like,
Yeah.
there's a through line of why the Shan are who they are.
Hmm.
We get
I
that
guess
more explanation.
yeah. I guess another answer for myself would be a little more of the white cloaks. Like I know we see them patrolling whatever town it is that um, Perrin interacts with them and does his thing. And I know we have obviously the prologue of Captain
Uh,
Commander getting the briefing with Padme
Egwene,
Payne.
Egwene, the girls
Hmm.
they come across him and use the one power to also scare them off too.
That is true. I forgot about that.
Which
Yeah, because they're with Baron. Yeah.
great Egwene moment of
Hmm.
the trauma from her being caged and collared,
Yeah.
an
She's like, never
animal.
again, never again.
Never, never again. That
Yeah.
that I am. You ain't putting me back in a cage.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess now that you mentioned that, I guess there was more White Cloak than I was thinking. Um,
That's
but
the
again,
thing. I
yeah.
overall, I would through the whole series,
Hmm.
I want more of the White Cloaks.
Hmm.
Like, why? Why exactly? Because to me, it seems more of they've just consistently are manipulated by the Dark One.
Right.
That's their role in the story and their history is they're constantly wrong and they're
Hmm.
constantly being controlled by dark friends or the Dark One himself
Right.
through his minions.
Yeah, because when they're
And
introduced in
mm,
book one, it almost like in my mind, I immediately like, okay, these guys could be crusaders against the Dark One. This is going to be epic. Like they're right, like they're
mhm,
like the Knights of Light. Like it's gonna be. I think that could be a really cool element. And then you're right, like the way they're used a lot of times is just manipulated, especially
yeah.
later. Like even in book
The
two,
fact that they're
it's
just
like
always
seeds.
wrong.
Yeah.
It's with even the Shan on how kind of vile they really are, but at
Hmm.
least they feel like a very unique culture in
Yeah.
and of themselves, and they exist outside of just the influence of the Dark One. They have their own
Hmm.
thing, and so
Yeah.
it's fascinating to discover their culture. The White Cloaks are just their consistent thing is they're just wrong about everything all the time.
Yeah.
What history? Why do they exist? What like, is there a push and pull of do they have a good side to them? Is there
Right.
something admirable but no, nothing.
Not
A-
really.
anything unique or cool or
Hmm.
like a weird tradition they do? No.
Hmm.
They
Yeah.
just they wear white cloaks and they're wrong all the time.
Right. And they are self-righteous and they act like they're the right ones.
Yeah, it's like
They're basically
what
there just to cause conflict and move the plot along.
yeah, which they do their job well, but I would
Hmm.
want more in
Yeah.
terms of world building from them.
Yeah. Because it's almost like since they don't really have a home base, like they do kind of in that country that's not really theirs, but like through
Mhm.
bureaucracy kind of is. Um, like they're almost like a mercenary group, like
Yeah,
with a patch of the sun on their cloaks type thing,
yeah, it
That
just kind of
if you
always
really want
this
to break it down.
they're an annoyance as well that
Yeah.
almost every country and group kind of just tolerates.
Hmm.
And the only time they become interesting is when that other character later in the book
Right.
with them. It's like, "Oh, actually I get it
Yeah.
why."
There's some
Where
depth
they
here.
make more sense in the context of no one like they don't know the truth.
Hmm.
And so the information that is given, their actions make somewhat more sense.
Yeah. Especially when we explore some of like the inside a little bit, like with the Inquisitors, where it's like
Mhm.
the Inquisitors just off the bat, they just seem like bad dudes.
Yeah, they're just mm,
Yeah. So it's like even just right off that you can like if this is like their subgroup, are they really the children of the light? So
yeah, I want more from them of why they exist, but
mhm.
I'm willing to accept
Yeah,
their
true. Because
role
like
as
you
they
said, you
are.
yeah, like you said, your big things like the history of it. Like we're
Mhm,
really just introduced to like this is what they are. But yeah, you're right. We don't really see the backstory. We kind of
mhm,
sort of like throughout like Padre Nile or whatever. He's like, oh, like
mm,
he's just an old dude, so it's like sort of has history just by association, but it's never really shown. If that
yeah.
makes sense. Yeah. So yeah, I would agree.
Well, ended things off a little bit on a little more negative note, but overall
It's
the
okay.
world is pretty great. Like
Uh huh.
we're trying to nitpick a fantastic world.
Yeah,
The
I mean,
Wheel of Time does.
it's still our favorites.
Yeah, so
Wheel of Time fans are hilarious because we all agree it's our favorite thing ever. Well, maybe not favorite thing ever, but favorite fantasy series ever. Let's say. But then it's like, yeah, but this whole book wasn't great, or oh, the slog, just skip this, or like
yeah.
they're just so funny to me. Where it's like they love everything except these couple of things.
The Wheel of Time is a roller coaster. And
Yeah,
the highs are worth it. The
yeah.
lows don't matter that much. So,
Right. Yeah, because the highs just outshine it so drastically. So
mhm. And I think this is also the important factor is the ending.
hmm
It ends well. Can you imagine
true.
like all the stuff with a lot of this, a lot of the push and pull, the good and the negative, all of that comes to a head of a lot of this was set up, and
Hmm.
if it doesn't pay off, it sucks.
Right.
But it actually pays off.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
all it makes all of the little nitpicks along the way
Hmm.
worth it because the payoff was so great.
Hmm. And now,
I know
yeah.
several series of all the setup was amazing for me, like the Lightbringer series.
Hmm.
Setup is amazing. Absolutely loved it. And the ending sucked so bad for me that it tainted the rest of the series. Like, ugh,
That's tough. Yeah.
it's hard for me to read it where the ending of Wheel of Time is so amazing
Yeah.
that I don't care about any little
Right.
gripe that I may have.
Yeah, where now it's like if you pick up on a little thing early on, you're like, I can't believe I missed that the first time. And the payoff
Yeah.
for that's so like amazing. Yeah. So
It
I think that's
reminds you
part.
of that payoff, and so it makes it even better on a reread.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think that's part of the fun of
Mhm.
doing this with you is like basically
Picking up on so much
reignite.
money.
Yeah, reigniting that love for the series. So
Mhm.
all right.
Completely
Well,
agree.
I appreciate your time, Richard. This is
Hey, I love being on here.
book number 3. We got 11. I lost count because there's 15 books
15,
minus
yes.
3. We got 12 books to go. So I
We'll get
appreciate.
there
Yeah,
eventually.
we'll get there eventually. So I appreciate you guys for watching, especially if you stuck around to this point. If you guys haven't already, go subscribe to Richard and Austin over at 2toRamble. Congrats on however many subs you guys are at now. You're over 30K, over
It's
30
somewhere
something.
there. Who knows?
Something. So, and of course, obligatory plug. Go check out the man's Patreon as well
Oh,
if you
thank
want
you.
monthly book clubs and all those good things.
Hey,
So,
and if you guys are here because I sent out a link and told you, "Hey, Wheel of Time talk," you gotta subscribe to, Dan reads. Daniel needs your subscribers. He needs your help.
yes, I
You
appreciate you.
definitely support him.
Yeah,
So,
actually, just
yeah,
as of recording this 2 days ago, I actually hit 500 subs. So
congratulations,
thank you.
man.
That is a huge milestone for me, and I want to thank you for that because too, I forget. I think it was the first video. I forget how many I was at, but your little thing went out. You guys gave me the love, and it literally over doubled my subscriber count, which was really fun to see. So yeah,
Awesome to hear.
so
Let's double it again.
do it. So here's to book number 4, and hopefully it doesn't take as long as the next one. So
We'll see.
we'll see. All right, thanks for watching,
Alright.
guys.
Bye, y'all.